Okay, in this next video, I'm going to be telling a story with Terence McKenna called The Fractal Soliton of Improbability. The story is based on a science fiction scenario. And the reason why I'm doing this is because if anything's going to describe our current world situation, it would be a science fiction novel. And so what I've done is I've paralleled that story to the hidden kind of underbelly of the Christian church and its history and where it came from. And I'm not going to cover the whole gamut, but I'm going to give insight into events and circumstances which constellated around 0, 1 AD, BC, right around in there. And then as well as Constantine's work in 324, and then King Theodosius or Emperor Theodosius from around 392, I believe, 395, right around in there, when Christianity was forced into the public under a threat of death. And so I'm gonna open that up, and hopefully through this story, it's going to help show people how incredible amounts of truth can be hidden right under your nose and not have any idea what you're sitting on. And so I'm hopefully with this video going to help elucidate some of that stuff and begin to open up the door to Christian history, and then you can then pursue that with some books I'll list at the end of the video. You can do your own pursuit of truth, because I'm just an opinion and likely wrong. So it's better if you do your own research. Just take a few clues, do your own research, and then figure it out for yourself what you want to believe.
Now let's see, how does it go? There's something in the universe called a fractal soliton of improbability. This means it's a unicate event. It only happens once in the lifetime of a universe. You can think of it as a wavelength with one wave. That's why it's called a soliton. And if one of these things move not in ordinary three-dimensional space, but in some kind of much higher spatial manifold, and when they collide with a planet, or when one collides with a planet in a universe, the time stream of that planet is divided, and two copies of the entire planet spring into existence without either having any knowledge of it. An event in the past had actually divided our time stream, and that a twin of this planet had come into being in another dimension.
Now, there's kind of a Gnostic kind of twist to this story. And the idea is that in Gnosticism is that the earth was created by this malevolent being. And this wave, this fractal wave that passes through the universe, when it strikes a planet, it gives access of this demiurge, of this entity or energy, to that planet. And so there's kind of a metaphysical aspect to this story, as well as a historical aspect, and this is kind of where I'm going with it. So the metaphysical aspect is that this demiurge was able to take form on the planet when this wave struck. And it was kind of this quantum charge that was unleashed upon the planet. And but because the planet split, it was only a half charge. And so the demiurge could only take reference, or you could say could take form on one of the planets. And the thought is that it was our planet that this thing took place, that this thing took shape, took form. When this thing took form, it took the form of Christ.
So the time-splitting event had to do with the career of Christ, who was an extraordinary manifestation of energy in the historical time stream, not to be confused with a Buddha or a Mohammed or a Zoroaster, who were great saints. And it was something else. It was, in some sense, what it claimed to be, but in some sense,
Okay, Christ had no children, and so Christ did not have a genetic lineage that he left. He had a metaphysical lineage that he left. It was like a signature on the planet. And that signature, if Christ existed, and that signature that was left, whether he was real or designed, doesn't matter. The point is that it took. And this affected the history of the world.
And so everything about these two worlds was the same, except that in one of them, the Immaculate Conception had not taken place, or the resurrection had not taken place. Now, because Christ had no children, in the world in which he was absent, it was not a genetic line which was missing. It was an ideological line which never received expression. And consequently, as time passed, first decades and then centuries, the absence of this particular intellectual influence in the world changed the world radically in the following way. Greek science did not suffer the suppression that occurred with the conversion of Constantine. The academies were not closed. The Hermetic knowledge was not repressed. Conversely, the empire was stronger and was able to repel the barbarian invasions of the 2nd to the 5th century. And mathematics, which had halted in our world at Diophantus, proceeded through his disciple Hypatia to develop a calculus by AD 370, so that the millennium of Christian stasis that occurred in our world did not occur in that world.
The Roman Empire, which simply became the Catholic Church, and the Roman emperor became the Pope. And this caused this dominator metaphysic to be introduced into the history of man. It's because Christianity came in and just basically said, we are basically in control of everything on this planet. And we control all knowledge and what is, given to people. That's why, you had all of this destruction going on of the Eleusinian mysteries that were going on, and all of that school and all the universities that had been set up, these heretical universities. These were all burned and destroyed. The Library of Alexandria, these were all burned and destroyed by the Christians who came in. But the planet that didn't take form, where Christ did not manifest, they were not influenced by what the church brought about around that time, that the church began to take hold, because there was no Christ, there was no metaphysical lineage. And this dramatically influenced what happened historically there, because we all know that there would have never been the organization of Christianity by Constantine, and then there would have never been the implementation of it 70 or so years later, 75 years later, by King Theodosius. And so on this planet, this didn't happen. And so you have the continued development of the mind and the historical record and all this stuff. You haven't had this influence coming in and just saying, no, we're going to completely take control of everything. And so therefore, they developed the shipbuilding 1,000 years earlier, were able to traverse the Atlantic, met up with the Guatemala during the flourishing of the whole psychedelia that basically the entire Western Hemisphere, North America, Canada, South America, had been completely embedded for thousands of years, right? These were people that were completely on the other side of the coin, and they had completely embedded in the understanding of nature through the intrinsic, rather than this scientific bent, which the Greco-Romans and this I would call it far Western Empire really took hold. This idea of science and the laying out of the laws of nature, rather than the acquiescing to the laws of nature, which we all know intrinsically, right? So they recognize this, and so you get this entire psychotronic culture that comes out.
This Greco-Roman imperial culture immediately recognized the genius of the Mayans in mathematics and astronomy, and Europe was transformed into an amalgamation, a Greco-Mayan civilization. And this civilization continued to develop. Now, one of the influences which the Mayans brought into Europe around the year 950 was their extremely sophisticated psychopharmacopoeia and shamanism. And this mated with Neoplatonism and Hermeticism, so that rather than science developing as it developed in our world, a kind of magical psychopharmacolytic technology of thought and understanding was what was developed over the centuries. They continued evolving with all this psychotronic and shamanically derived, and now by this time you can imagine it was an unbelievably exotic and alien civilization compared to our own.
The twist of the story is that the two planets realign. They come together. They completely come together. And the idea is, the theoretical idea of this is that is what's happening right now. And that we are having right now in this big awakening, this big awareness thing that's going on. You know, we have this understanding of people. There's a lot of people in this world that have done a lot of study in the metaphysics, especially in India, especially in the East, through meditation, as well as the shamanistic cultures in Brazil and so forth, that have really developed and understand being able to heal the human psyche, either through mushrooms or plant psychedelics, ayahuasca, and these different compounds, hallucinogenic compounds that actually heal the psyche. And so right now, you know, we're seeing this beginning to happen. We're seeing movements. The MAPS Foundation is now coming in, and they're working to try to get, you know, some things done as far as this the psychedelic work, because this is really how you heal, how you reactivate the serotonin system, and how you heal the mind. All right. Well, the point of all this is what I'm saying, and that's the story. That's basically the story. So the point of what I'm saying in all this, one of the things for me that was important was for me to understand what was the real history of the church, really, where did the Bible come from? How did this really go down, you know? And, you know, you ask people that are Christians that question, and it's kind of like asking a Toyota dealership if Toyota cars are good, or what's the history of Toyota, you know?
They've completely placed their entire, and this is the Christian, they have completely placed their entire life and every decision that they make, everything about their life, based on a history of their religion that they really don't know.
Because everybody that's in Christianity only knows the history of Christianity from people who have been trained by Christians, you have this very lopsided view and understanding of the religion, of its history, because you've just gotten the side of the winners. You haven't gotten the side of the losers. And, you know, we can look now at the United States and what's happening with all the corruption that's happening. You know, everybody's becoming aware of just how corrupt this place has been for so long. And, you know, we haven't been aware of that, or a lot of people haven't. And people are coming into awareness of that. And they would have, 10 years before, would have never, believed that 9/11 was inside job. They would have never believed that, a lot of these false flag events that are happening are inside jobs. Folks would have just completely dismissed that, But now, there's a different awareness going on. There's a different reality, you could say.
Even if you're a full-blown theologue, a full-blown theologian, went to seminary, got the degrees, served in the church, the whole thing, right? You're in the same position. You're in the same position as the person who's buying the car from only one dealership, getting the advice from only one dealership, as the person who marries somebody and never asks any of their friends what they think of this person, their family, and not took any of their advice, but just completely went off of, what the gal's parents said, and the gal's parents like you, And so this is an incredible blind spot. And what's so amazing is this is what's even more incredible. And this happened also with a doctor friend of mine. I'll give you an example of. But this is incredible. You'll talk to a person who is a Christian like this, and you'll say that. You'll say, well, have you ever looked into Buddhism? And they'll say, oh yeah, I've totally looked into Buddhism. Totally. Well, how did you find out about Buddhism? Well, when I went to seminary, we had a week-long class that taught us Buddhism. And all the things that are wrong with Buddhism and all the reasons why Buddhism is bunk, right? So I went there. I already learned. That's what this person is thinking. I already studied Buddhism, got it covered. New Age, yep, totally got that covered. Totally found out all the reasons why that's wrong, and that's completely bunk, you know. And then Hinduism, oh yeah, just, you know, those people, they're just a bunch of idol worshipers. Yep, they have no idea what they're talking about spiritually. Those people are totally lost. What a waste of time. And they're just going to be, you know, going to hell. You know, they're lost, right? This is the attitude, right? This is the attitude. It's this self-righteous, I'm right, period, attitude, right? And it's based on, this is the tragedy, it's based on a total fallacy, which is everything you know about Christianity, you found out about from your pastor, from other Christians, from the accepted morality, from the accepted way of behavior, from just the way your parents taught you, all of it. And the defense of this is to the death, right? Right? So there's no losing this battle. Anyone that's going to come along and try and undermine this religion, it's just, oh my, just dismiss that person.
The people that edited the Bible, the manuscript that was passed on, right, were basically Catholic bishops. Okay, I'm gonna play this little piece here by Jonathan Ott, who's basically going to give a little bit of a picture of the situation at that time.